Okay, so we have a project we're going to be working on, a personal mandala, and this is basically a storytelling piece that you're going to use to make a cover art for your portfolio. So this is going to go on the front of your slideshows, and you're going to use 10 items to create this with. And from those items you have your favorite food, a favorite animal, a favorite shape, something you left at school, candy, your favorite candy, something you're most proud of about school, maybe you're not proud about school, something you find in your room, like photos, medals, watches, I don't know, anything, a kid's toy, something you have, a tool you use in art, and your choice. So using that list, we're going to create some cool stuff. Now, cool thing is I'm going to show you two things today. I'm going to show you how to make a pattern tool, or pattern, and I'll use I don't know, let's use a Twix bar. That'll be good. Use a Twix bar. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this. So I'm going to go right click on it, and if you can't right click with your mouse, you can come over here and go to your Apple and go to System Preferences and go to your mouse, and your mouse is going to ask, is you have primary or secondary device, so can you right click or left click? You should be able to set up the point and click part where you do a secondary click and a primary click. So one click, and it depends on the mouse, but your mouse is, you can basically set your right side of your mouse to click and be a right click. So when doing that, once you've done that, you're going to copy image, and you're going to come over to Photoshop, and this is what we're going to end up making. So I'm going to show you some cool stuff here. And you can see I have a Snicker bar here. So we have this big field, and I've already made a bunch of different pattern stamps, but I'm going to put this into here. And the way I do it is, once I've done that, I can go over here and go to edit and paste, or you can go Command and V. So I just put my Snicker bar in, and then I'm going to make it larger. The way you can make the candy bar bigger on the screen is you can go to Free Transform or Transform, and you can scale it, or you can hit the shortcut, which is Command T as in Tom. I'm going to scale it up. You can see I can scale it proportionally. If you don't hold down Shift, it's easy. I'm going to hit Return, and that enters it, so it locks it in. And then if you're happy with that, I'm going to use a little shortcut fun tool. This is an eraser, and I'm going to use the magic eraser. I don't want this white border. This is such a great tool to learn. It's a magic eraser. It erases everything around it, so it gives a nice clean edge. Then what I want to do is I'm going to use my crop tool real quick, and I'm going to crop this down. I just want just the candy bar. And notice there's no background. It's like a checkerboard pattern. That means there's no white, there's no nothing. And really what I want is just the candy bar. So when I'm done, I hit Enter to return. You just see just a candy bar. This is given just a nice small field to work with. I'm going to go to Edit, and this is where it gets great. I'm going to define a pattern with this, and then I'm going to call it Twix. There we go, and hit OK. And that's done. And I'm going to make a mandala, and I started a second mandala here, you can see, which is really fun and cool. I'm going to turn these layers off, and I'm going to teach a little bit about layers. But why don't we learn from the get-go? We're in Photoshop. We're going to go to File and New. So I'm going to make a brand new one. And I'm going to go to inches instead of pixels. I'm going to set the size for this document to be 10 by 10, and I'm going to make the resolution 300, so it makes it sharp. RGB should be colored, that's what you should have, 8-bit, white background, and hit Create. I have a blank document here, okay? And in order for me to make a mandala, I'm going to create some ellipses. Ellipse is a fancy word for circle. And you can see I have a background set up here, and I'm going to click on here, and down here it says create a new layer. I'm going to make a new layer. This is a layer that's going to go above the background. I'm going to grab my ellipse, and I hold down Shift, and I'm going to pull out a circle. This will keep it perfect. If I don't, it gives me oblong. So I hold down Shift and it keeps it a good shape. And then I'm going to come over here and use my selection tool, path selection, and I'm going to move it around the screen, and hopefully I can get it centered. Let's see, will it let me get it centered? Sometimes it tricks me because it should show a pink X and Y axis, which tells me it's centered. I'm going to say that's pretty close. I'm just not getting that to show right now. Let's see if it lets me do it here. Nope, it's not letting me grab it. So, that being said, let me try it one more time. Nope, it's not letting me show that. I don't know why. Let's say that's centered. It looks good. Now, I also want to double check something. I'm going to go back a step now that I made this mistake. To go back, I want to go back to my ellipse. Make sure it's on the path, not the shape. Path is really important. Having a path is going to allow you to have something follow it, if that makes sense. Again, I'm going to center this to the best of my ability. Hopefully this will let me. And I'm sure if you do this right, you can get right dead center. That looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and go to Edit, and I'm going to go to Fill. Oh, this is doing this again to me. Let's see if this will let me know. Nope. All right. Now that I have this set up, I'm going to jump back over to this dock because for whatever reason this one was working and that one wasn't. So here's the same thing, and I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to put my Twix in here. I'm going to move this layer. You can move your layers around. You can see I'm moving this up or down, and also I can turn on the eyeball or off the eyeball. So I'm going to go here and go to Edit, and I'm going to go to Fill, and I'm going to find under here my candy bar. I had a Twix. I'm going to hit OK. And we're using a pattern, so everything looks good. And I'm going to space these out a little bit because I don't want to have, first I don't maybe keep the size, but the spacing is the key thing. I don't want to have them so close together. See how they get bunched up? But I want to have them maybe like that. That looks pretty good. And maybe make them a little bit bigger. I'll make them a little bit smaller. And the distance and adjustment, they're basically running like, they should run perfectly in a circle. And there we go. Now I have my Twixes, which is awesome because what this does is it creates a perfect symmetrical sphere, and you have a circle in the center, which is indicative of a mandala. If I turn on my dog layer, you can see I have the same thing. I just did a slight variation of that. So as I build up layers, and I'm going to grab another one. So I'm actually going to change, make a new layer, and I'm going to come back here. I'm going to grab this ellipse tool. So I'm going to use my selection. You can see it already selected the ellipse I created. Hold down Shift. I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to resize and center this. There we go. See, this gives me the X and Y, the center axis. So I know what I'm looking at. And then I'm going to come here, and you want to think about the shapes you're using when you choose images to do this with. I'm going to go here and grab, I have a window. This is a window, and it's based on what's in your bedroom. So I chose this. I'm going to make this pretty small, make these tiny, and I'm going to make the distance pretty close. Let's see what happens here when I do this. These are windows, and they're overlapping themselves, which makes a nice sort of contrast, that green against the red of the Twix, which is kind of cool. So this is being a little more creative with the patterning, and you notice it's got its own layer. If I turn on that dog layer, I may want to move that up maybe 2 layers, and then the dogs are on top of that. That gives me kind of a cool pattern. So you can see I'm creating this mandala using the ellipses to basically tell my story visually. And I'm going to go back, I'm going to make another layer on top of those dogs, and I'm going to line this out, make it much bigger. I think I'm going to take this out pretty far. I'm going to play around. I love pizza, so I'm going to show you how I did this. I'm going to move this down and crop. There we go. Now I'm in the right spot. And I'm going to go ahead and go up to here, go to Edit, and I'm going to go to Fill again. And again, we're going and looking at the pattern, whatever we're going to use. Let me use a round pizza. I have two pizzas. I have a slice and I have a whole cheese pizza. Let's see how this looks. This is very crowded, so I'm going to spread these out a little more. Now, it's going to vary between each one you do. I'm going to make these pretty small because I'm close to the edge. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, so that goes off the edge of the page. So what I might do, if I want to go back a step, I go Command Z. That takes those pizzas away. I go back to Edit and Fill, and I like the pizzas, and I think it says Distance from Path. It's right at, I'm going to take it right on the path. So it puts it actually inside the path. And I'm going to hit OK and see how this goes. There you go. So that's better. You could make your canvas bigger if you want to accommodate for that. But now I have food, snacks, I have a pet, and I have something from my bedroom, which is the window. And then you could add other elements if you'd like to this. I was thinking about it, and maybe I want to go back and choose another option, and I might go here and cancel that out of there. And I might go back and I went to candy. I'm going to choose a watch. I'll choose a swatch watch. A swatch watch. Let's see, go down here. Let's see what kind of images come up. Alright, so they have lots of cool swatches. And these are great because they have a white background. I like to keep it really simple with the background. And I'm going to, again, you can copy this image. Again, I have kind of a workspace that I'm using to do my, make my pattern stamps. And I'll make a new layer, I'll turn off my Twix, and I'll do a Command and V, this paste. And there's nothing around it, so it's perfect. And I'm going to go to my crop tool. Again, I don't want much information other than the watch. It just makes it easier when I go to make my pattern. You need to come down here and then grab this corner. This is cropping this down and make the most minimal amount of information. And then I'm going to come to Edit. I'm going to define a brush pattern, watch, and hit OK. Now I go back over to my project, and I think it's this one. Yep. And again, I'm going to move this ellipse one more time. This will be my last one I do, and I'm going to make this small. Hold down Shift, drag it in, make it nice and small, and maybe take it even inside of that. There we go. And now I'm going to do the watches by Edit. I'm going to go to Fill. Again, I'm looking for my watch, which is the bottom one. Hit OK. And I'm looking, and maybe I'm going to, maybe I'll make it a little bigger. And maybe, let's see, angle of path. Let's see what this does. There we go. I think I'm going to go to 0. I'm going to zero it out. Let's get it to 0. I probably could type it faster. There we go. And the distance, I might make these closer together. There we go. Let's see how that looks. There we go. So now I have those watches on the very inside, as you can see. And that looks pretty good. And there we go. And that's how you're going to make your mandala. And you don't have to have a white background. You can change the color of the background. If I go down here and I hit background and I click and make a new layer, I could do one of two things. I could drop a gradient in if I find my center point. And I'll drag it out. And that gives me a cool background. If I don't want to look at that ellipse anymore, I think we can make that go away. Or you can add lines and other cool shapes. I haven't added a shape yet, but circles are shapes. Rectangles are shapes. So that's the basic for that. And then you want to file and you want to hit save to save your work. I like to save to cloud. It saves to my workspace, and then it's openable at home or at school. And there you go. Hopefully you learned something new today.